Get strong.
Hey guys, all right. This is a question that we ask ourselves all the time. Actually, we don't ask ourselves this question. We ask other people this question. We do this all the time. We ask this question without ever even thinking about it. But here's the deal. If we were really aware of what we were asking, this one question that just flows out of our mouth so easy every single day could actually change your life if you ask to yourself and if you asked this question and answered it 100% truthfully. Now that's the difficult thing. Okay, so I want you to work with me today. Get ready to just stretch your mind. Get ready to open up and receive everything that God wants to give you, because right here we're going to be talking about that crazy blessed place where we are operating in God's favor. And some people want it, some people don't. Totally cool. You can take it, you can leave it, you can ignore it, you can adopt it. But I want to give you this one shift that truly, if you exercise this one shift, it would completely change your life. So here's this question. Are you ready? Here's this question. How are you doing? Okay, now seriously, you can be like, oh, Hannah, come on. No, work with me. Hold up, work with me. This one question, how are you doing? And most people say what? Like, you guys tell me, what do most people say? Like if I said, hey, how you doing? What would you say? You'd say, I'm fine, right? Yeah, you would say, fine, everything's good, or wow, that COVID, or wow, that economic recession, or wow, that weather, whatever. But we would say, yeah, I'm fine. Usually we would. Now, let's break this one question down. How are you doing? What if we asked ourselves this question? And I want to ask you this today. I want to ask you, and I want you to answer me in the comments. I want you to answer, how are you doing? If you're listening to this, go ahead and leave a comment, leave a remark, whatever. But I want you to really answer that question for yourself. How are you doing? Because sometimes we'll ask ourselves, how are you feeling? But when we ask, how are you doing? We're asking basically, how are you doing life? So for example, I have a lake outside my house. And if I ask someone, how do you do a kayak? How do you like row a kayak? They would say, oh, okay, well, you sit in it and then you have this oar and you go on that side and it turns it to the right and you go this side, turns to the left, and that's how you do a kayak. They would tell me how, okay? That how describes the process. So for example, how do you bake a cake? You say, oh, well, here's how. You get a bowl, you get some flour, you get some sugar, you get some eggs, you get some milk, you get some oil, like all the stuff. And then you stir it all up and you spray the pan, you put it in there, you bake a cake. So it's answering the question, how do you do it? So if we're asking, how are you doing? Then we're asking the question, how are you doing life? So I want you to just pretend like we're talking, like pretend like we're it's just me and you, okay? Pretend like it's just me and you, and we're sitting at a dining room table. We have a cup of coffee. We're just talking, and I look in your eyes, and I say, "How are you doing life?" What would be your answer to that? What would be your answer? And we ask that question all the time, but we really don't think about how we're answering that. We say, fine. Fine is not how you're doing life. So really think, how am I doing life? At this time, at this place, going through what we're all going through right now, it's kind of a crazy season, right? Is it just me, or is it just kind of a crazy season right now? And if you can say, how are you doing? We're asking, you're going to get from birth to grave. That's your life, okay? Your human life. You're born, you live, you die, right? We can all agree on that. All right. So this thing from birth to death is called your life. So I want to ask, how are you doing? How are you doing this thing called living? This thing from birth to death. How are you doing that? How are you doing that life that we're talking about? Because you're going to get to the grave eventually. We're all going to die. I'm sorry if you Didn't realize that. And it comes just like a kind of brain blast, Jimmy Neutron kind of level, but it's okay. We're all going to die. We can just like agree on that. But how are you going to get there? How are you going to live? So my goal is I want to live outrageously. That's why my podcast is called Crazy Blessed. That's why I am a crazy blessed life coach. I help people live a life that's blessed like crazy. So they're like, holy cow, how am I doing all this? How in the world am I able to create this income? How am I able to create this joy in my home? How am I able to create this health and vitality in my body? That's the kind of life I want. So when we get really clear with the how, then the what takes care of itself. But sometimes we focus on the what? The circumstances, the money, the health. How many friends do I have? How many likes do I have? Where am I living? Is my house clean or cluttered? We focus on the circumstances. We forget that we're creating all of those circumstances simply by the thoughts that dominate our life, the thoughts that dominate this brain space that we have. So if we can get clear on how we're doing life, then the what, the quality of our life, it takes care of itself. So having this idea then, we can realize this actually becomes a daily decision. A daily decision. We have to ask ourselves, how am I going to do today? Because a lot of times I see people like moving on with their life and they're getting all these years behind them and they really haven't made it intentional that they are able to create the life that they want. They think that, well, it's just luck or it's just, in the cards or whatever, que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. Like life is just whatever happens to me. No, it's not. You should happen to life. Life shouldn't happen to you. You come at it with the spirit of a creator, right? Because God breathed his spirit inside of you. He breathed the spirit of the creator inside of you. So you have that God instinct inside of you to create. And how do we create? We create with our thoughts. So I want to pose this decision to you that every day, if we ask ourselves, how am I going to do today? It will change your life 180 degrees. It will absolutely change the trajectory of your life. And therefore, when you change the thoughts and change how you're living, you change what? You change the circumstances. You change what you get out of your life. So this happened when God was trying to be so clear with his people, make it so clear that they actually had power to choose. In Deuteronomy 30:19, he said, look, behold, I put before you life and death. So choose life that you and your descendants may live. He's like, you're not making this choice just for you. You're actually making this choice for your spouse, for your kids, for your clients, for whoever God brings into your circle of influence. You're making this decision based this decision. You think it's about you, but it's not. It's about so much more. It's about you and every life that you have the opportunity to touch. So there's so much more at stake here. So we're told, God told us in Deuteronomy 30:19, look, I'm giving you the power to choose how you do life. And I put before you, here's like abundance, here's scarcity, here's joy, here's pain, here's freedom, here's bondage. Like, which one are you going to choose? And that becomes a choice that we need to make every single day. You wake up and you intentionally decide in prayer, how am I going to do today? Not just, I'm just going to like deal with whatever life throws at me. Of course you are. Of course you are. It's not going to, but how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to deal with it in a positive, intentional way? Or are you just going to deal with it like, well, I guess this is just life, because we get to choose. And how we choose to go through any hard times also determines how we come out. So this time during the whole weird 2020 pandemic, crazy, whatever you want to call it, kind of fear-based. I feel like a lot of people are just operating in fear right now. Whatever you want to call it, how we go through this will determine how we come out. So if you want to come out victorious, you make that decision every day of how you're going to choose your thoughts, how you're going to process whatever life throws at you. because life throws it at you. You process it in a positive, exciting way. You look for opportunity instead of despair. You look for, what does this make possible? And all of a sudden, if you approach it like that, you are lifted to a higher level. So those circumstances don't become so fearful anymore. You prove yourself in them. So I want to share this one thing with you, because I think you're going to get a lot out of this. In 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 21, Elijah's talking to the Israelites, and he's saying, guys, I mean, he may not have said guys. He said, guys, listen. He said, how long are you going to halt and limp between two opinions? I love that, because they were like, oh, I love God and I'm going to serve God, but Baal is so cool and I'm going to serve him too, and I'm going to go to the temple and worship, but then I'm going to also give a sacrifice to Baal. Like, they were halting and limping. That's what Elijah calls it. Halting and limping between two opinions, and they weren't getting any results. And you can't. If you got 1 foot here, 1 foot here, 1 foot in bondage, 1 foot in freedom, 1 foot in pleasure, 1 foot in pain, if you're like halting and limping, you're going to stay stuck. It's like going forward and backward and forward and backward and forward and backward. Eventually, you dig a hole so deep, you're like, can I ever get out of this thing? But Elijah said, how long are you going to do this? Like, you get to decide. How long are you going to halt and limp between these two opinions? Like, oh, 2020 is the worst thing ever. Or, you know what? This could be a new opportunity. And you don't just decide, it's how I wake up in the morning, like I'm in a good mood or I'm in a bad mood. No, no, no. You get to decide. That's what Elijah said. How long are you going to think that you don't have the power to make a decision? How long are you going to think that you don't get to choose this? How long do you think that you're just subject to whatever life throws at you? Because you're not. You had the power to decide. You had the power to choose. So quit halting and limping through life, because guess what's going to happen? You're going to halt and limp your way right to the grave. And then think, why didn't I do more with my life? Why didn't I take more chances? Why didn't I grab more joy? Why didn't I enjoy my family? Why did I get so focused in all the little things? Why did I major in the minors and forget about the extravagance of life? That's what Elijah was trying to say. Guys, if you want pain, then just go for pain. But if you want something more, if you want to live with freedom, if you want to live with joy, if you want to live with abundance, that happens every day when you make an intentional decision. How am I doing today? How am I going to do today? Because your life is just a culmination of days. And your days are just a culmination of moments. And every moment, you have the power to decide what you make it mean. Every moment you have that power. And when you step into that position of power, you realize, wait, I'm not waiting on God to do something. God's waiting on me to step into integrity, to step into intention and make the choice that I'm going to choose life. I'm going to choose joy. I'm not going to wait for it to happen to me. I'm going to happen to it. I'm going to choose it today. So I just wanted to share with you this one question. If you take the time and ask yourself that one question, and then have the integrity to answer it 100% truthfully, your life can change completely. That one question, how am I doing? Because I get to decide. And when you make that decision, you will be blessed like crazy. It's true. It's true. You will be blessed like crazy. And that's what I'm here for. I'm your crazy blessed life coach. I love you. I want you to live a life that completely astounds you by how awesome it is. So drop a comment. Let me know. How are you doing? How are you doing? Because when it comes down to it, you get to decide. Pretty cool, huh?